Stopped using young people's blood in hopes of reversing the aging process after a warning from the FDA.
The names of several people connected to disgraced financier and offender Jeffrey Epstein were unsealed last night. They include former President Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew.
The bottom line is that a lot of this stuff is kind of really, I would say earth-shattering, but the type of documents, the photographs, the deposition testimony, if the statute of limitations hasn't run, if there's things that can be done, this may be the impetus to get it going.
Epstein had long been associated with former U.S. presidents, Hollywood stars, and people in the modeling and fashion industries. Epstein died in prison in 2019 while awaiting trial on trafficking charges.
Right now, a lot of Bay Area geniuses are focused on solving one of the greatest mysteries of life: aging. One company is hot on the trail of an answer. Only on 5 tonight, Juliette Goodrich reports scientists may have found a real fountain of youth, one that can repair aging brains in plasma from young blood.
Elise, I want to start with you. Let's break down adrenochrome, because it feels like the base for a lot of theories we're going to dive into in this podcast. First of all, is adrenochrome technically real?
It is. Actually, that's a good place to start. It is actually a real thing. It's the oxidation of adrenaline, and this can happen naturally in your body or in a lab. It's actually really easy to come by. You can just buy it on the internet. There was some interest in the 1960s for using it to treat schizophrenia, but it really showed no promise, so they dropped it. The history of the adrenochrome we're talking about is it goes back to, I think Aldous Huxley was the first one to talk about it as a drug. He talked about it in Doors of Perception, and then Hunter S. Thompson in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is really the one who cemented the myth of adrenochrome as a drug, because he turned it into this kind of immortality drug, this thing that you have to get from a live source. I think the line is, "A corpse is no good, buddy." And if you go, I know you're not supposed to read
the video. Are we talking about the Terry Gilliam film? That's how Johnny Depp pronounces it.
Yes, that's how Johnny.
This is where we're getting our information from.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's where they're getting their information from. Like, I know you're not supposed to go to YouTube comments, but if you go to the YouTube comments on this scene, they are all about how this is real.
3 new medical studies out this morning show young blood can improve lives.
Scientists hope these mouse studies will lead to anti-aging treatments for humans.
But it really is hope that not slowing aging, which a lot of studies have shown with various drugs, but this actually reversed the changes. So there clearly is something here. These are the best science journals with really well done science, but it will take a while before we understand how to control it and use it appropriately and safely in humans.
Dr. Karmazin says that he plans to open a young blood lab in New York in the coming months.
It was something a cross between vampire and Frankenstein, where they took 2 animals and they hooked their blood supply together for 4 weeks, called parabiosis.
So the scientists did a simple experiment with some very old mice. We've sped up the video for time. In a special maze that measures learning and memory, old mice have a tough time remembering how to get out. They're stuck exploring dead ends and making lots of navigational errors. But when injected with young human plasma, these old mice head directly to the exit without making a mistake. Not only that, their brains have changed.
It's pretty dramatic.
Those green dots? Newborn neurons, freshly sprouted in a part of the brain critical for memory and learning.
We do our treatment, we see a doubling of that.
At Stanford University, Alkahest has now launched the first controlled clinical study of young plasma in humans.
There's some good science at the heart of it, but then other people with potentially a profit motive and people who are desperate for cures and preventions, that all comes together into a perfect storm.
One startup company called Ambrosia promised a number of benefits for treatment using plasma from donors 16 to 25. But cures, remedies, and a retail price of $8,000 per unit was replaced with this message on the Ambrosia website Tuesday. In compliance with the FDA announcement, we have ceased patient treatments.
Think fountain of youth, but with a twist. What's flowing through the veins of young people may help restore old aging brains.
Neuroscientist Caroline Nikolic.
The very first reaction, I think in all of us, was skepticism.
Nikolic heads up Alkahest, a biotech company in San Carlos. He says plasma contains thousands of proteins that do different jobs. But when his colleagues analyzed plasma samples donated by the young and old alike, they were astonished.
We have actually now for the first time discovered that there are hundreds of proteins that change with aging.
And listen to this. A startup claims to have found the fountain of youth, and it is young blood. The company's called Ambrosia Medical. They charge $8,000 to fill older people's veins with blood from young donors. They have just finished a clinical trial, and they say the results were positive, but you might want to hold off on making that appointment. The FDA says this is safe. It's just like a blood transfusion, but there's no evidence that it actually works. And Sven, doesn't this just sound creepy or sci-fi to like fill your veins?
Totally normal.
Sven's like, I have my appointment next week.
Does that basically make you a vampire then, doesn't it?
It's totally like vampire, yeah.
If you're taking other people's blood to survive?
To make you younger? To survive.
To make you younger? Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird.
The beginning, that and Huxley's book is where the first time we actually hear the term adrenochrome.
He even said afterwards that he just wanted a quote-unquote crazy drug. And so he made it up. And so he's drawing on Huxley and then like adding his own little stuff. And adrenochrome, the way it's become, it is, as you were saying, it's a grab bag of the greatest hits, right? It's got Immortality, like Satanic Panic and Hollywood Elites. It's got everything.
It's a good one.
It is, yeah.
Let's add some context to it. Drinking their blood to ingest adrenochrome because it has some sort of elixir of life properties. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you're telling me it may not be true.
I mean, you should buy it on the internet and find out.
It's at least worth a dabble.
Theory posits that this cabal of global elites who is, are draining this chemical compound.
There's that aspect of it, like the people who really get into the game of it. Like let's find the numerology and all of like the special symbols. And then there's the people who are actually mobilized around this, and that's what really struck me about people. It was the first time that I really saw this, where you could see there was already this theory about a pedophile ring being run by the Clintons, and it was kind of a theory in need of specifics. And so they went out seeking specifics.
The Epstein documents were released today, making public the names of almost 200 people associated with disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. A court released the unredacted names that include some anticipated names like former President Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and Limited Brands founder Lex Wexner.
This morning, we're learning why attorneys wanted to depose former President Clinton in a now settled defamation case relating to allegations against offender Jeffrey Epstein and his one-time paramour, Ghislaine Maxwell.
We never knew why Clinton's deposition was sought. Now we do.
The first batch of previously sealed court documents related to Epstein were made public last night. One from a lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre. She's one of the women who say they were at Epstein's home in Florida, New York, and on a private Caribbean island. Giuffre's attorneys sought to depose Clinton as part of her 2016 lawsuit against Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, because her attorneys argued Clinton is a key person who can provide information about his close relationship with Maxwell and Epstein and disapprove Maxwell's claims.
This is just the first of what's coming out about these names that have been associated with Jeffrey Epstein for a long time.
But that wasn't really the story. The story was that then people talked about it, that then it was in the national media for like 48 hours, like a whole week. And it was not only in the media, their theory was in the media. And I went back to the message boards afterwards, and they were just beside themselves with joy over this. Like, it was not at all about, oh, our guy was arrested, whoops, or he didn't really seem to find anything. It was not about that. It was about the media exposure. And then there were sort of further suggestions. Well, how can we get them to keep denying it so they keep saying it so people keep Googling it? And when I was seeing that, I was like, oh, this is something else. This is a kind of savvy media campaign that I think most of us at that point were not totally familiar with. Now we know if you mention something, you have to be very careful what sort of buzzwords you mention.
That was always a conversation of at what point you don't want to amplify these wild ideas. But at the same time, turning a blind eye to something that's already having an effect on culture. It's already being amplified by legitimate politicians, even the Donald Trump, legitimizing the points of view there. Like, it was becoming very real world news.